Hey guys, so I'm here today with my husband Derek, and we're going to be talking about a really big experience we've had since November. So, some of you know he was diagnosed with lung cancer in November, and he is going to be sharing his experience, about the whole process of being diagnosed with cancer, what that means, and then also how nutrition has played a role in his life now and through treatment. So, here's Derek, my husband, and thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it, babe.
Of course.
All right, so let's go ahead and start with can you tell people about your diagnosis? What was your diagnosis and how were you diagnosed?
So I was diagnosed on November 1st of 2024, and I was experiencing some strange, like, neurological symptoms, and went to the ER, and discovered through some CT imaging that I had some masses in my brain. And the doctors at the hospital there said it didn't look like that's where it originated from. And so they sent me to the hospital that night, and through an MRI later, they found the origin. It was lung cancer.
Mm-hmm.
So the right side near the center is where I have a tumor and some cancerous lymph nodes. That's what they found.
Mm-hmm. So you had it there on your right side of your lung and then in your brain. How many tumors did you have in your brain?
I think they said 8. Is that right?
Yeah, that's what I remember, 8.
Okay.
Yeah. What was going through your mind?
When we first arrived at the hospital, or not first arrived, but when the doctor came in after having reviewed the CT scans, I could instantly tell from his face and body language that it was not good news, and it was a moment of feeling like no way is he going to come in here and say that CT scan had something abnormal in it, because you just float, you just go through life thinking today's going to be like yesterday, and tomorrow will be like today, and then one night you're in the hospital and everything changes.
Yeah.
So, when he first told me, the first thing that went through my mind is, well, I probably have a couple months to live, and I wasn't ready for that, because, like I said, you expect tomorrow to be like today, and you don't think of your own mortality as being so nearby. And so that was the first thing that went through my mind that evening. But then my mindset started to shift as time went on, as the hours went on. I became more focused on just putting one foot in front of the other, step by step. I don't know what's coming next. We'll deal with it when it arrives. And in those first few days, that really helped me a lot, I think. Just to sort of just give up control and worry, even though it was terrifying. And if I let my mind drip back into it, it was terrifying. But as much as I could, I just tried to take it step by step in those first few days.
Mm-hmm. And you talk about, you're not thinking really about your own mortality. Share with everyone, how old are you?
40.
Mm-hmm. And you had just
turned 40.
Yeah, just a couple.
September 11th, so that was like 6 weeks before.
Yeah.
Or 7, around there, 7 weeks.
A couple months before. Yeah. So definitely you weren't expecting anything like that.
No.
So you mentioned some neurological symptoms. Did you ever well, first of all, go ahead and expand on what type of neurological symptoms you were having. And then did you ever have any like breathing symptoms or anything like that?
So things started to present themselves earlier that year. I experienced my first migraine with aura or oral migraine, where you have this like weird rainbow sort of enter your vision, and it kind of like would start at a point and then sort of like grow and grow and then expand and kind of like sort of fade over the course of like 30 minutes to an hour, fade to the outer edge of your vision and then disappear. And that was like the first time I'd ever experienced something like that. Was earlier in 2024, and I had a couple of those in the months going forward since the first one. And I mentioned that to my primary care, and that I would also see these little, what I would call like a pixel of light. You know, like when you stand up too fast and blood rushes to your head and you see stars, you know? Occasionally out of nowhere, without having stood up fast, I would see like a little pixel of light just kind of float through my vision and then disappear.
Wow.
And so I mentioned that to him. Wish he would have taken that more seriously
Yeah.
at the time. But and no breathing issues until the very end, where I would try, I could feel something when I would take a deep breath. And I asked you on a couple occasions, can you hear this? And I would go, it's not there anymore. But it just felt like there was like a constriction or something in there that was causing a turbulent airflow. And so I could feel it, but it didn't even show up on stethoscope. So even after I was in the hospital, after the diagnosis, I mentioned, oh yeah, I have this, thing, can you hear it? And they would, listen, and they couldn't hear it. So only I could feel it. But what it was is the tumor itself, and then the enlarged lymph nodes pushing on one of the airways. So manifesting it in that sensation.
Wow. Thanks for sharing that. Okay, so you're in the hospital. They're, concerned about you. Obviously, you have these tumors in your brain, your lung. Did the doctors ever mention anything about a prognosis?
No. I specifically asked every doctor that came into the room to, before you tell me anything at all, I don't want to know of any prognosis if you have one in mind. That was key for me, because I, with all the information that was flying at me in those first few days, I was not prepared to hear that. I just, needed to get my feet under me, first of all, before I was prepared to deal with a timeline. And so they also didn't have one to give. I didn't know this at the time, but they had to run tests to see what kind of cancer it was. They also needed to do a PET scan to find out if it was anywhere else in my body, et cetera, et cetera. So they didn't really know. They only knew brain and lung. And so they couldn't actually give me one anyway. But, if they had one, I didn't want to hear it.
That's good. All right, so do kind of like a little recap of the treatment you've had so far, or actually before that, what type of cancer do you have specifically?
Right. So I have adenocarcinoma with an ALK positive genetic marker on it. So luckily for me, it is one of the most treatable. Well, it has a very targeted treatment that I'm currently on.
Yeah. And so, really quick too, you have non-small cell lung cancer.
Right.
And have you ever smoked?
No.
So I think that's a big misconception. I saw one day, not long ago on the internet, someone wearing your shirt, and it was like, if you have lungs, you could get lung cancer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we think of lung cancer as being something only smokers get, but here you were, an endurance athlete, never smoked, all of a sudden, 40 years old, lung cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty wild. So you said you have a targeted treatment. Tell us about the targeted treatment and tell us about what they did for treating your brain.
Yeah, so they moved pretty quickly. I think mid-November, they did what was called, or what is called stereotactic radiosurgery, where they lay you on a table and then radiate your brain using, I believe it's like 2 radiation beams that peak at the specific areas where they want them to. So I had 1 or 2 kind of large ones on the upper left, which was sort of affecting my leg and dexterity in my hand. Actually leading up to the diagnosis, one of the things that I also should have noted was that I was making mistakes in using my right hand, like texting,
Mm-hmm.
hitting the right key. It was like every other word had a typo in it. I had to backspace and fix it. So that was being caused by the 2 in the upper left, and it was a course of 4 treatments. So every treatment they went and did the 2 on the upper left because they were the largest. But basically they just went around and radiated all of them. And so that was pretty quickly. It was resolved. It was, I think, over the course of a week and a half. It's like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then the following Monday, and then I was done. And then after that, I don't know exactly when they discovered that it was ALK positive. It must have been around that time frame because I started on the targeted immunotherapy medication, oral medication. November 30th was my first dose.
Mm-hmm.
So sometime between November 1st and then radiotherapy mid-November, and then November 30th when I started the medication is, when they found out from testing what type it was and what it could respond to. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. And how is being on the medication?
Fine. Initially we thought maybe it was causing some side effects, like physical side effects. But it was probably just a coincidence of timing. My brain trying to heal itself from the radiosurgery while I was starting the immunotherapy. And so now I don't have any physical side effects from that medication, but it shows up in blood work. So instantaneously my cholesterol went up. So it was like, I have baseline of low. I'm not sure. I couldn't tell you, but there's like this massive spike after November 30th. No change in diet. In fact, I got way better, and this went way up. So now I'm like probably like average American cholesterol. I'm on the lower end of average American. So there's no need for an intervention with like a statin to get that under control. And then also liver function. So there's these 2 measurements, something transferase, something else transferase, ACT and AFT or something like that. But anyway, so those are both elevated but coming back down. And the cool thing is the body, I guess, gets accustomed to the medication. And so I'm not sure how that mechanism works, but my levels have come down from their peak. Yeah.
That's good. All right, so you talked a little bit about diet. Let's talk a little bit more about that. Obviously you lived with me, and I'm a huge advocate of using food to heal and improve our life, right?
Mm-hmm.
When did a diet change enter into your mind?
Well, you were the one who brought it up. First thing in the hospital, basically. It was like, we have a diet that we know about that we can jump all the way into. And so even in the hospital, you were bringing me, really healthy meals and juices as well. And so I think it was like day 2, maybe, that was when we basically started or talked about it, and then essentially started a huge diet change.
Yeah. I remember saying I really wanted you to really jump on board the nutritarian eating that night in the hospital. And you're like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Did you feel resistant at all? I mean, it seemed not resistant at all.
No, not resistant at all. I mean, when you experience something like that, you'll be willing to change everything.
So, knowing you, I think you probably ate probably better than the average American, but give kind of like a run through on what you would eat on a typical day before diagnosis.
Well, it was probably like pancakes or eggs for breakfast, and then microwave burrito for lunch, and then whatever you would make for dinner.
Okay. Which I would focus on really nutrient-dense dinners. But then the morning to your earlier meals would be less nutrient-dense. Okay, so you self-described as being vegetarian. So you said you ate eggs. Did you also eat cheese? What about sweets?
Yeah, always had a block of cheese nearby. And so, I would just cut slices off of that for snacks during the day. So weird to say that now. And then, there was always sweets nearby, like chocolate was a big one. I can't remember what else we had, but I was not averse to, sugary cereal was a big one for dessert or, mid-afternoon snack.
I remember when I first met you being so like, oh, he would always eat cereal for dessert. I had never known anyone to do that until I met you. But you don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
All right. So now, what does the average day of eating look like?
So breakfast is either like oatmeal or quinoa or just apple with a little bit peanut butter or almond butter or that nutso butter with all the seeds in it. And then for lunch, it's a salad or leftovers from the night before. And then for dinner, it's like most commonly sauteed vegetables and tofu or some kind of like soup or stew, like the lentil soup. Or like a quinoa grain bowl, which is what I had last night with tofu and kale.
Yeah.
And then that'll be, if we did make it, then that'll be lunch for the next day.
I will say you're really good at getting salads in every day. What other foods, or are there any particular foods in particular that we really focused in on diet?
I mean, we're juicing a lot more now.
So I would say the biggies, I'm going to jump in. The biggies would be mushrooms. We incorporate so much mushrooms into our diet. Tons of...
It just seems normal to me now that I forget to mention it.
Yes, tons of mushrooms.
We eat our food.
Tons of grains, tons of berries, tons. We're not overeating. We're eating until we're appropriately full, satisfied. I just want to clarify that. But like your morning when you do have quinoa or oatmeal or something like that, there's always like fresh fruit and healthy seeds. So we really have focused on getting in Dr. Furman what he calls his G bombs. So we focus on that, and then also adding in cruciferous juice. So our one that we do the most is going to be bok choy and beets, sometimes carrot, things like that. Sometimes we switch up the different cruciferous vegetables that we're using with our juice, but adding that in, and then again focusing, getting beans, lentils, lots of, nutrient-dense foods. Yeah.
Cool.
So you said, oh yeah, it just seems so normal now. So do you enjoy eating this way?
Yeah. At first, I still had the cravings for the old food. But with anything, the further away you get from it, and the more you work on these new habits, the less you crave the old way. So at first, maybe it was a little bit, well, the cravings were more present then. But for me, because of my diagnosis, going back was not an option. So it was like a physical barrier, craving something you couldn't have anyway. So stop, thinking about it. And then eventually you just don't even think about it. And then eventually you develop kind of like an aversion to it. So, I mean, I have zero desire to go out to eat at a restaurant anymore, because it just doesn't taste good anymore, and I'm paying a lot of money for it. So it's like, this is double a negative. Kind of ruined restaurants, actually, which is
Totally.
but that can be replaced with something else also enjoyable, so I don't regret that for a minute. Yeah.
Yeah, you just end up feeling better and saving money. So, seems good.
Yeah.
So, have you ever eaten off course since you've gone 100% nutritarian?
So Thanksgiving, and then we had a Christmas party. So those are the two occasions that I can think of where I had, did eat like cheese or something else. And then the holidays are hard that way, but since then, no, not really. I mean, sometimes I'll still have like a square of chocolate after my lunch salad. But if we run out of chocolate, like, I don't replace it for like a week at a time sometimes. So, if that's like 2 grams of sugar or whatever, maybe I'll just drop it, because like I said, sometimes I just forget about replacing the chocolate anyway. So, but no, pretty on the wagon without any slip-ups.
That's great.
Yeah.
When you did, let's say you say Thanksgiving, you had some cheese or something. How did you feel afterwards, or not eating?
It's so heavy, like, and greasy. It's a weird mouthfeel to go back to that after having eaten things that are always like crisp and light and full of water. To go back to fat and animal protein, it's like real heavy. And it's so salty too. So cheese, cheese is gone basically. I don't miss it at all.
Yeah. So talking about diet and why we wanted to go 100% nutritarian. So talking really quick about cheese, kind of, I know you do, but do you want to share kind of the motivation for giving up cheese and sugary foods and focusing on the nutrient-dense foods?
Yeah, I mean, so at some point, I started framing it as feeding the tumor. So these foods, when it's in my hand, and I think about eating this or not eating this, I feel like, okay, if you eat this, you're feeding the tumor. So how much do you really want to feed the tumor? And so that would be all the motivation I would need to just like set it down. And there was one instance early on where I had a bowl of cereal, and I don't know if I was trying to, if I was worried about the glycemic spike at the time. And it was one of those moments where it's already in the bowl, but the milk's not on it. Do you want to do this or not? And so I ended up actually pouring it back into the bag and putting it back, and I replaced it with something else. I think it was an apple.
That's good.
Don't feed the tumor.
Yeah. And I love that mindset, or how you frame that, don't feed the tumor, because dairy creates IGF-1, and sugar with the insulin spike, that directly feeds the tumor. So I feel like if you are like, the first thing with nutrition for cancer should be don't feed the tumor, which means keep your insulin levels down as low as possible, and also your IGF-1 levels down. So like he says, don't feed the tumor, and then give your body all of these foods that, especially cruciferous vegetables, but also, garlic, onion, berries, mushrooms in particular, they all help support your immune system, and they help your body fight the tumors. They stop their
Hmm.
growth. They promote apoptosis. Mushrooms can help target the cancer cells so they can't hide from your immune system. So those are all really important things. So, I feel like when I am eating nutritarian, that I have this intellectual appreciation for my food too. Like it tastes good, I feel amazing, but then I also really appreciate what it's doing for me.
Hmm.
Did you feel that sense as well?
Yeah, for sure. It felt like, when I was eating it's a, you know, fighting cancer or just giving yourself the best shot at beating cancer is so much a mindset, but also like the addition of marginal gains. And so, what I mean by that is you have this amazing immunotherapy drug, right? But that alone will take you maybe only some percentage of the way towards totally beating cancer, right? And they know that on this drug, you have a really good shot at living a pretty long time, maybe till the next drug is released. But in the meantime, you want to give yourself the best opportunity to get all the way. So with that, like with every bite, I would feel like, okay, this is a step in the positive direction. It's not, a step backwards. Or even with like the mindset, feeling like this is doing something is a really powerful thing that you can do for yourself and for your body. And I'm not sure, there's something to that. It's not all woo woo. It's like
Right.
you have to get everything right, and then you'll have the best shot at beating it. And so, with food, with choosing things that move you in a positive direction, I feel like it's been a crucial part of this.
Absolutely. And I want to talk more about what else you've done, but really quick, I like how you were mentioning marginal gains. And I think that's really great. Like, when you're faced with such a thing, you want to do everything you can to help yourself, to give you your best shots. I mean, we have young children.
Hmm.
You want to experience them growing up, right?
Yeah.
And so obviously nutrition is going to play a huge role in that. But then, if you change your diet a little bit, you might get a little bit of benefit. But if you go all the way, you get a bigger benefit too. So, you want to do everything mindset, working with conventional doctors, and then your nutrition, like you really want everything.
Hmm.
Tell us about your mindset and things you did to help you with that.
So you definitely appreciate every day that you're alive, for sure, um, in a way that you didn't before. And actually, when I was in the hospital, I started meditating the very first day that I was staying there. Um, there was something that I always kind of like dabbled in. I would, try to be consistent for a couple days and then forget to do it, and then try to pick it up a day later, and then it would just drop off completely until the next time it crossed my mind, some months later or whatever. But I've basically been meditating like every day since the diagnosis, and that has really helped me in my mindset. It's given me time to contemplate my own purpose, my own mortality, um, to really think about what really matters in life and what's worth, keeping, and what needs to go. And so that has really helped stabilize me and put me in the right frame of mind uh, for this journey. So.
Yeah. I mean, nothing like a stage 4 diagnosis to help you reevaluate your priorities, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think we all did that in our household dealing with this, Um, what is important in life?
I mean, it's it's what you would expect.
Mm-hmm.
It's all friends and family,
Mm-hmm.
basically. Um, Experiences with other people more than anything, but also being mindful of when you're not giving as much attention to those areas of your life as you should be. When you start getting too caught up in work, and you don't even realize how much of yourself you're giving away, and how much of your own time you're giving away.
Mm-hmm.
And so something like this really makes you reevaluate your life, and in my case, has caused me to bring more balance back into it.
Very good. All right. So, do you have any advice for people who have maybe just recently been diagnosed with cancer? And this can be nutritional advice as well as lifestyle advice. Any advice?
Yeah, I would say the thing that helped most for me was just taking it one step at a time. One foot in front of the other, kind of thing. You don't know what's going to be around the next turn, or just over the horizon, and you really have to live in the present, I guess I would say, is not worry so much about the future, but really appreciate every moment that you have now.
Mm-hmm.
And then also to give yourself every marginal gain that you can, and that would include nutrition. So if you get this diagnosis and you feel like, I'm just going to indulge in everything now because I don't know how much time I have left, I think that would be the wrong thing to do. You would be much better served by taking care of yourself health-wise, including nutrition, to give yourself that extra chance.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. And I want to talk a little bit more about kind of the advice around mindset as well. So it took a few weeks for you to get there, but then you came up with this really determined mindset of you will live to be
96.
Yes.
Yeah.
Talk about that a little more.
Yeah. So at some point, there was leading up to the diagnosis, I was not in a great place. I was depressed. Work was really demanding too much of me. The days were just kind of rolling together, and for some reason, I had this feeling like one other thing. So I have atypical cystic fibrosis, and for some reason, I've always had this thought, maybe I will only make it to my early 40s. I don't know why that had been something that I had thought, kind of frequently in my late 30s, and as I was approaching 40. And then I get this diagnosis, and it's like, it almost felt as if like I did it to myself. That by thinking like that, I made it happen. And whether or not that's true, thinking like that is not a good way to live your life day to day. And so I decided I'm not going to think like that anymore, and that I will think positively. And so I decided I'm living to 96, and that's that. So that's my mantra. But when I get there, maybe I'll decide it's going to be 106.
Yeah.
So,
Very good. And do you think having that mindset shift has helped?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm way less negative and pessimistic, and I don't know how much of that was due to the brain tumors or just due to me not being insightful enough or mindful enough of um, the good things that I have in life. But the mindset shift has definitely been something that feels better than the way things were before.
Yeah, very good. So you gave some advice to people who might have just recently been diagnosed with cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any advice for anyone who's maybe watching this and is, feeling relatively healthy and cancer free? Any advice to anyone else who hasn't had such a scary diagnosis?
Same thing. So regardless, you still have to take care of yourself and live every day as if it may be the day that you get that diagnosis. And I know people often say that after they've been through an experience like mine, but I wish that I could impart the feeling that you feel when it happens to you to everyone who's watching this, and that just take some time every day to be grateful for what you do have, and then also treat yourself well, so that if that day should ever come for you, you won't feel like I did, like I wasn't living my life to its fullest before that happened. So
Yeah. And being along with you in this journey, I feel like I was able to learn a lot of those lessons. Like, I think, especially when we're younger, I'm 38, you're 40.
mm-hmm.
We get this false sense of security and like we have plenty of time,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't necessarily. And so it's so important to live your life in a joyful way, right? You want to make sure that you're feeling it with activities and the people that bring you joy and love and happiness. And then also don't wait for a terrible diagnosis to improve your diet. Eat well now because that will help mitigate your chances of getting a disease, but then also too
You'll just feel great in the meantime. So.
Exactly. Really quick, when he first, after about a week or two of eating nutritarian, and before he was even on any treatment, he would just walk around going, "I feel great," like all of the time. It was,
Yeah.
he was like a walking commercial for eating well.
Yeah.
And just going through this experience with you, and again, you realize our life, our time is so limited. Why not feel great?
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to wait for a diagnosis for that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so much. I really appreciate this. And then also too, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them below. We would love to answer them, either about his experience, diagnosis, the eating aspect of everything. Please leave your questions below. And then also make sure to hit the bell and like and follow. I think we're going to try to get up next week, do a video where we go over what we eat in a day. So, how do we get in our cruciferous juice and all of our, cooked and raw cruciferous vegetables and the berries and all of the G-bombs. So we'll give you an insight into what it looks like eating to heal. So yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Bye.